Hello, hello, hello. I hope this is working decently. I don't know. I'm trying out some new like the pre-roll, intro animation that seemed to kind of be throwing my computer for a loop, which is not good. I am not sure why, but I guess maybe playing that video intro, coming starting soon, whatever. Seem to be throwing it for quite a loop. I'm gonna see, try to launch on my iPad over here and see. Doesn't seem to be stuttering or anything, so that's good. Video quality might drop, but it doesn't say. We're not dropping any frames. We're getting 30 frames per second. Whatever. So the YouTube Studio says that it's not receiving enough data. Sorry about it. So, hello, all you beautiful people. Today is Tuesday, June 13th. June 13th. I can't speak. Shout out to Bill Neighbors. Happy birthday. Isn't it weird how, maybe not weird, I think it's kind of cool how there's certain people that you like grow up with who you just kind of always remember their birthdays. Like those days stick out for whatever reason. Bill, birthday June 13th, always stuck out. His was like the first in our grade. He was like the first one to turn 16 for all that kind of stuff. And yeah, everybody lost in June 19th coming up. So yeah, just a funny tidbit, but um, kind of a slow Tuesday. Not much happening around here. My son's taking a nap as he usually is when I hop on here, but getting a pretty good nap. So I'm very it's helping me out a lot. Put him down about 1. Here we are, 2 hours in. My rule of thumb is like anything after 2 hours, I'm thrilled with. Anything less than that, it's kind of a bit of a bummer, bit of a disappointment. But um, right now we're right at 2 hours, so he could wake up at any time, and we'll see how that goes. But I'm working with some new artwork you got here. I made it in Canva. It's nothing fancy or anything crazy, but just got some social links down there. Twitter, Instagram are the same. At PJ Brown underscore 3. I'm the third, but then I got Mastodon on there. Big Mastodon user these days. I'm unless it's just doesn't make any sense or it's a reply or a quote tweet or something, I tend to cross post on Twitter and Mastodon. Um, Still waiting for the coveted Blue Sky invite. If let's see, there's 2 people watching right now, or 2 people have. It's probably I said not concurrent viewers. They're probably me checking in. I'm checking in on the stream on my iPad here just to make sure the quality is staying okay. But um, I you know I think my computer's not necessarily handling the streaming super duper well. Actually, I'm gonna tweet the uh, the link out because I had to do a new one because the last stream stuttered and was terrible. YouTube Studio is kind of weird. Like it doesn't. I feel like it doesn't. It's not as like up to date as YouTube. Like it doesn't show. We're almost 7 minutes into the live stream and it doesn't show it as an option on there. So that's interesting, but I'll just share it from here. Also, a bit interesting that like tweeting it out, there's not. It doesn't. Well, that's probably just like for the iPad. It worked okay from the website, but um, either way, I'm learning very quickly that my computer is does a lot of things really well. It's I mentioned before, I run a Mac Mini from 2018. Great machine, Intel i7, But when you start to compare it to like what Apple Silicon is doing and what I have this iPad Pro right here is M1, just the base M1, but for a lot of this like video intensive stuff, especially like I've run Final Cut Pro, DaVinci Resolve, LumaFusion, all pretty heavy duty professional level video editing software. Honestly, yeah, LumaFusion and DaVinci Resolve are full fledged, desktop level. I don't know. Final Cut, great that it's on iPad, but it's still there's some things that it needs to add. But DaVinci Resolve and LumaFusion are huge, heavy pro applications, and M1 iPad, in my experience, handles video editing, video rendering, especially for like larger 4K files, better than my Mac Mini, which is obviously frustrating because this is you can't see, but this is my desktop setup. It can't be run off of my iPad, and and I don't necessarily have like buyer's remorse that I should have got a MacBook and just kind of run everything off of that. But while Apple has had, a almost 3 year transition into Apple Silicon, my transition has been a little bit longer into Apple Silicon just because, it's super expensive. But, I got it's doing its job for now. But I do think, especially at WWDC, the appeal of the new M2 Ultra Mac Studio is up there. It's very appealing and it's very intriguing. I don't know. I was for a long time I didn't think that they were going to update the Mac Studio until they brought out the M3 series for this Apple Silicon. But they did. They updated it with M2, which is fine. But I think the rumors of the M3 are that they're going to go to, I think, a 3 nanometer process on the actual fab. So I think you'll probably see a lot more improvement on laptops and iPads and things like that, because the smaller chip will have better heat management, and so battery life and all those kind of things will be improved, and sustained output will be improved. But even for the desktop, I think one of the biggest things that you see improvement of year over year is the I get distracted by this stuff too easily. The biggest thing have seen year over year from M1 to M2 is like graphical performance improvements. I think one of the big knocks on Apple and Macs as a whole has been GPU performance, GPU support, external GPU support, all those kind of things. Obviously the Mac Pro has been a bit ahead of the game in that previously, because you could physically insert all these desktop level GPUs with Thunderbolt 3 and above, and some of the adjustments or some of the additions that they made in supporting at least AMD GPUs over the last 4 to 5 years, internally or externally. Like the Mac Mini that I have set up right now, I have a external GPU on the ground over here, which it's makes a lot of clutter, and I don't love it, but it does add some good performance, especially when I'm doing a lot of heavier video editing and things. Photo editing, it flies, but I think video editing, it still kind of gets choked pretty quick. But I'm running AMD RTX 5700 GPU in there, so it's a few years out of date. It's not the latest and greatest by any means, but the GPU performance, I think, has long been kind of where they've lacked. And with the addition of the M1 and Apple Silicon, the M series as a whole kind of coming to fruition as it has, that performance has increased year over year as things have gone. And I think they're just adding more and more graphical cores, whether that be high performing or kind of the lower powered, more sustainable cores. But I do think that the M3, it seems like the early rumors and things that they've been discussing that the M3 is kind of going to be the next leap. It's a very TikTok kind of a rollout, similar to how Intel did it for so many years, where every other year was kind of the big leap, and it's not unlike what Apple's done for a long time, or at least did for a long time when they had the S series of phones. You had the 5S, 6S, and every other year they kind of made a leap. The S series was kind of an incremental step forward, whereas then the following year was kind of, okay, here's the big change. And it seems like the M3 was kind of going to be that for Apple Silicon line. So I don't know. It's obviously, if I go for a Mac Studio with the M2 Ultra, I'm definitely not going to just turn around in a year or two and get an M3 Mac Studio or anything like that. So just starting to kind of figure that out. I do, in the next year or so, I do need to upgrade. I kind of would be surprised if they do upgrade the Mac Studio next year. 2 years in a row, rolling it out with the Mac Pro. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I could see them kind of doing a complete revamp of the Mac Pro, and like that being the big thing next year. Although that's going to really, piss off a lot of people that they go for it this year. So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I think, maybe them going ahead and updating these with the M2 is kind of their way of saying, yep, these are the ones. I don't know. The M2 performance and benchmarks and all that kind of stuff sound pretty incredible. So it would be a huge leap from where my current setup is at, in terms of kind of what I want to try to do moving forward with more, streaming. And I've noticed so much like lag when I've got OBS running on one side, and then trying to kind of shuffle between, Apple. I've got Apple News kind of up here to kind of go through some headlines. And then, even when I was playing around with it a little bit more yesterday, and it was kind of adding some animated overlays and things like that, and then it really kind of started to chug. And so I've got to do something if I want to improve, the quality of it at all. But the cool thing about the Mac Studio, especially in my current setup, is that it'd be a plug and play, kind of drop it in to where my current Mac Mini is. I think the height that I have my monitors at right now would probably just slide right under there and work out really well. And I would just kind of have to switch out the power cables, and I think it may have a different power cable, but then everything else, I'd have to adjust the monitor, since I wouldn't be using the external GPU anymore. But that wouldn't be anything, and it'd be pretty cool. I think it'd really improve everything I got kind of going on here. But that's I don't know, a slight ramble, just because I saw when I was like kind of getting this set up that it was having issues. It was saying, encoding issues, saying I may need to change presets and whatnot. I thought maybe it was because I had that kind of video pre-roll starting soon, or whatever. But hadn't kind of a slower week of tech after obviously a big WWDC. I'm not going to keep talking a ton about Vision Pro. I think a lot of people in this tech space have gotten their hands on. They've seen it in person. I've done none of that. I think conceptually it's cool, and I'm going to kind of leave it at that until more starts to come out, and we keep in mind that this thing's not actually launching until next year. So there's still a lot to learn, and a lot that they could change about that. So I'm gonna was very excited when it launched, and just kind of keep that excitement at bay, and see where things go over the next 6 to 8 months. Honestly, I'm reading these headlines with you. I've kind of just jumped in. I took my son to the library today, and really enjoyed doing that. And haven't really had a ton of time to check in with what's happening in tech. But let's start with The Verge. I really like The Verge. I feel like I've seen some people who were like almost discredit The Verge as like, I don't know, it's like the mammoth tech blog and publication that they are, and been kind of following them for a really long time and really like what they do. I think the biggest thing about The Verge is the people that they hire. I think they have a really unique staff, and of just a lot of different type of really cool, really interesting people. I feel like every time they introduce somebody new on video, I'm like, I just hang out. I would hang out with them. So it's a cool. That's just kind of the place I start. It's my homepage. The of the over the past almost 20 years, probably since like 2013, or I'm sorry, 2003. Whew, time. Since 2002, 2003, around there, since like the turn of the century, I probably had two different home pages when, like when the computer, when it was either my own computer, my laptop, whatever, or I had like my own profile on, our family computer or whatever. First, it was CNET. It was always CNET. Uh, Loved CNET. That was like my first big, the first tech website that I just kind of like got way into and dove into. Kent German, the legend, with phone reviews. Um, so it was CNET, and then I'd say probably like 2011. Trying to think when The Verge was even founded, but like 2010, 2011, 2009, right when I was early in college, and it was like for me at least, it was like a monumental switch of like, and it felt like, weirdly enough, it felt like a changing of the guard to a degree. It was like, okay, for this long, this tech publication has been, my go-to, whatever. Now it's kind of a new era of, this startup tech publication started by Josh Topolsky and Eli and David Pierce and all these guys, and um, you know, Dieter and Paul and Joanna, the whole crew. Little, Sam Sheffer, who's I always, I don't know, I still am a big Sam Sheffer fan, and because he was kind of like my age around the time that he was starting to work for The Verge, and it's just, I mean, I thought he was a cool dude, and have DM'd with him a couple times, and just, kind of told him how much I admired him, and that whole crew. I think I want to listen to the Vergecast and things. I just love their take on tech in the world, and it's always, just enjoy it. So so that's why I started here. What a ramble to just say these are the stories that I'm going to look at to see kind of what's actually happening. That headline's weird, but I'm really excited about the Apple's MagSafe. What is it, like stand something? I don't even remember what they called it, but the ability to put, like, when you put your phone on a MagSafe charger like next to your bed or something, and if you turn it landscape, it presents itself as an alarm clock and all those kind of things. I think that's really smart and it's really cool, especially the customization of it. And I've seen that even different MagSafe devices will cause your phone to respond differently. So like if you're at your bedside table and you're going to sleep and you put it down there, you may want a certain brightness level, a certain clock face, certain notifications or widgets to show up. Okay. Then say maybe you're at your desk and you have a stand over there, you put your phone there and say there, maybe you just want to show your calendar or, your to-do list or what have you. So I think that's pretty cool. And I think it's also cool that it kind of tells you that there's something in the magnets, or there's something in MagSafe as a whole that either a low power microchip that can just send out a signal, an identifier, really is a flag that says, hey, I'm stand 2, or hey, I'm stand 3, and thus reply accordingly. Or there could be an NFC element to it where you are essentially programming an NFC tag. I don't know, but there's something in MagSafe itself, the stand or the accessory or whatever it is, that's able to send a signal. I'd imagine, because most of these are powered, there's probably some sort of like really small chip in there that just can send out a signal, an identifier, to tell the phone what mode or what things to kind of go into. Instagram status update now includes what song you're listening to. That's kind of cool. I think their status update was kind of a weird feature. It's kind of like an away message. It was an interesting way to pitch it. I think it was the basis for what they're doing with like their competitor to Twitter. I think it's going to be a very text-based thing, kind of similar to that. And So I think that was just kind of foundationally what that is. Now they're starting to add in this other stuff, and then when they announce their Twitter competitor, they're like, oh yeah, see, it's Notes, but with all this other stuff. Not just it's videos, pictures, all those things. So whatever. I don't know that Notes is going to pop off. I think it'll probably go away in the next couple of years, and all their text based efforts will go towards their Twitter competitor. Which I wish I understand that words get kind of sucked into the zeitgeist, and they become verbs. Googling things, tweeting, tissue, Kleenex, all those kind of things where brand names become the thing, and whatever. But I think we keep saying things are Twitter competitors, but Twitter's just a microblogging platform. It started with an arbitrary 140 characters because of the limitations of SMS, and there's all these things that kind of stuck with it and carried it forward. That we kind of use for all these other platforms, and now that Twitter is kind of where it's at, and it is becoming even more of a closed kind of ecosystem and closed. I don't know. Closed isn't the right word because it sounds almost mean. It's open in a sense of anybody can join, but I mean they're limiting APIs, they're limiting the third party market, doing a lot of things. Obviously, Elon's trying to make money, but a lot of what they're doing is putting that walled garden up even higher than kind of it had been, which sucks, honestly. And that's why these other microblogging platforms and open decentralized protocols have taken off, which I think is great. I've talked a lot about the AT protocol and ActivityPub, that ActivityPub being what Mastodon runs on and what Instagram's soon to be competitor will run on, which I'm actually super, super duper excited about that, and hope that they're serious about it, and hope that they don't just forget about it in 6 months, because I think having another major tech player being, Meta, Facebook, whatever, Instagram, in that space competing directly against Twitter, even though, yeah, sure, it's two big behemoths, it's two big giants just still competing against each other. But that's it's different in the sense that it's not just Instagram coming with something that's exactly like Twitter. Sure, it's similar in that it's a microblogging platform, as I mentioned, that supports text, it supports video, it supports all these things. But the big thing with Instagrams is that it's going to be built on ActivityPub. And so that means that Instagram, major player, is going to be not competing with, but joining these other decentralized and open source services or networks like Mastodon, like PixelFed, like all these other things that are able to kind of interconnect because of the underlying ActivityPub technology. And so I think that's really cool. I'm very excited. I don't know when it's coming out. There's been leaks and things like that. Who knows? But the prospect of that happening is really cool. And so I'm excited for when that does happen. And I hope that they don't just forget about it. Instagram, Facebook, companies like that are known for, oh, we're going all in on, NFTs or whatever, and then just forget about it 6 months later or a year later. So, that kind of ties a little bit into, all of this Reddit stuff happening. When Elon took over Twitter, or not took over, after he took over and he started making these changes to the API, unfortunately, other tech companies took notice of that, and that's like one of the worst things that could be copied from Elon's changes since he took over at Twitter. Reddit was one of those who decided to start charging for API calls. API calls. An API is what allows a service like Twitter, a service like Reddit, to work with a third-party app, third party being an application built not by Reddit or not by Twitter. So for Reddit, the biggest app was Apollo. My wife uses it every day. MKBHD is a big fan. I'm not a huge Reddit user, so I'm not entirely caught up on how great it is, but it seems very obvious that Apollo is the biggest app in the third party kind of Reddit space. For Twitter, similarly, I think less so in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, maybe pre 2020. But prior to that, the third party market in Twitter was huge. There was, I used an app called Talon for a number of years. There was all these different Tweetbot, all these different really, really great apps built by a thriving community of developers who were able to, add their own things in and charge and make money and do all of these things, and what made Twitter Twitter. And so all of those applications used the API that Twitter creates and provides and gives to those developers. I think I'm not sure if the developers were charged or if it was a free API, and the changes were that it was, they wanted more money or whatever. But the API is what allows them to still be able to send tweets, and they have to make calls on that API. And a lot of times what happened is they're limited on the number of calls they can make with, say, the free API. And if they want unlimited, then they have to pay or whatever. With Twitter in particular, the accounts and the logins were tokenized. And so the APIs that the developers received were only allowed so many tokens, 100,000 tokens or something. So essentially each app had a limit of 100,000 users. And when that was reached, those are the only people that can use that app. They can anybody can download it, but nobody else can actually log in. And I ran into that issue because there was a period of time where former CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, was making all of these API changes, and developers were just trying to keep up, and it was chaos kind of left and right every day. But these apps would reach their token limit, and you would go to try to log in, and be like, nope, can't. It would just error, and it wouldn't really tell you what kind of was going on. It's just like your token's not authorized, and you're just like, what is it? So all this stuff is still applying today, unfortunately, in this Reddit situation. And the CEO, they said that they're going to start charging more for their API, and the developers that make these third-party apps have basically said, we can't afford, like, it's going to drive us out of business. We can't afford to keep doing this. So, they're kind of protesting in a sense. So there's all of these subreddits that went dark, I believe yesterday, maybe into today, but it caused Reddit all sorts of problems. Those whole site-wide outage. It was probably a nightmare for them. The CEO essentially said, this will pass. We kind of knew that people were going to be mad, and we know that, like other things like this, this will pass. Which sucks to hear a CEO say that and kind of discredit the frustrations and outcry of really some of the most passionate users. I mean, these are moderators that are in charge of subreddits, and some of them have created businesses based on these subreddits and all these things. And I know that's an easy way to say, well, yeah, okay, then they should pay and all that. The pricing and the scale at which some of these subreddits are used, it was ludicrous. I think the Apollo CEO said it would cost him $20 million just to keep it running monthly, which obviously is insane. So I don't know. There's a lot of things that could be changed there. I think it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to kind of all of a sudden make these changes. It seems like, I know a lot of the worry is kind of the rise in AI, and there can be abuse, and you can automate these API calls and gather data. And I think that's kind of the main reason, is that a lot of machine learning and large language models can be trained on Reddit data, which, I get it. That makes sense. But, that regardless of if a developer or somebody who has a large language model that they want to train, even if they don't have access to the API, it's almost just as easy to build something. I mean, Google exists and it scrapes the web and it does all these things, and there's web scrapers and all these other things. So there's nefarious ways that people can go about doing this that they probably would anyway. So I don't know. It's a catch-22, and I think that's one of the many problems that people are going to start running into with AI and um, all of kind of this new realm of data and data gathering that we're in. Um, I just don't know that limiting the API and charging kind of outrageous. I think there are ways that they could have not like special pricing or something like that, but Apollo and these developers that have been developing these apps for a decade plus, maybe it'd be kind of cool to work with them and figure out ways to make it work for them, and assuming that they're not bad actors out there trying to trying to harm anybody. So I think it's a bummer that's kind of where it's reached, and I hope that they're able to. I don't know. I hope they're able to come up to figure out something that actually is beneficial to both parties. Um, a quick pivot to just kind of what I've been watching lately. I'm gonna have to end this in just a minute because my son's waking up. But um, I haven't started the newest season of Manifest. I know, or I guess not the newest season. The second half of the final season. Um, but I'm excited to kind of see how that ends. I'm not entirely sure what they're gonna do. With the death date approaching and all that, who knows? It seems like they're gonna figure out a way to get around it, and it's not gonna have like a sad ending. But I've been getting back into Barry, and my wife had kind of given up and said that you're not even seeing what I'm seeing. Um, my wife and I have been watching it. We kind of caught back up on season 3, and like midway through that season, she's like, "I'm out. I'm not. I don't really want to watch it anymore." Which is fine. So I've been watching it myself. It's been great. I finished season 3, um, and I'm about halfway through season 4 now, and uh, the cover here is a bit of a spoiler. But I saw that when I was in season 3, and it was like, okay, well, so somehow he ends up in jail. But it's been great. I think. Oh man, I'm getting another. Might be buffering. This sucks. We gotta get a. I have to upgrade my computer soon, but yeah, using web pages is causing it to kind of freak out, which is a big old bummer. Um, but I don't know. I've been enjoying that. We've been watching, or I was watching that, and together we've been watching Never Have I Ever. It's just it's a fun show. Nothing too in depth. Just a fun kind of high school teen drama. Still really into Silo. Let's see, one episode. I think there's one episode left or available, and then another one this Friday. But um, Silo's been great. I know it's based on a book series that I have not read, but I have really enjoyed Silo. Would definitely recommend. Oh, there's 10 episodes. Okay, cool. So there's like 3 episodes left. Um, crap, sun's waking up. But been enjoying that greatly. I am gonna have to hop off and go tend to my son. But really just wanted to test out, see how these little overlays worked. They kind of made my computer go nuts. Hopefully I can get that fixed soon. But enjoy getting on here and rambling a bit about social networking and TV shows and Apple always. But until next time, I'm probably gonna try to hop on again tomorrow. We will see. Wednesdays are usually a pretty good day to do it. So hope everybody has a